Good morning, Open Heart. It is good to be with you in this sacred and holy space today on this first Sunday in March. And I am so glad to be a part. I want to make sure I get it right. As Open Heart Spiritual Center celebrates Women's History Month, it is Women in New Thought, speaking truth from power. And I am so thrilled to be a part of this magnanimous event this month. And John, I love you. I appreciate you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate in this beautiful, beautiful event this month. So, of course, our theme is Speaking Truth from Power. My title today is Saint Thecla, Black Girl Magic. And, of course, all in celebration of Women's History Month. And so my talk text, which you know I usually give the theme, and then my title, and then the talk text. Well, the talk text today comes from the Acts of Paul and Thecla. And you go, huh? So the Acts of Paul and Thecla are a part of the apocryphal readings. And I'm not trying to, you can go to seminary if you want to be traumatized with this information. So there's the pseudepigrapha, and there's the apocrypha, and then there's the canonical Bible, which we have. And so the books that didn't make it into that are in those other groups. And I know for a fact why they didn't take this book, because Thecla is just, I don't want to get ahead of myself. And so today's talk text comes from that apocryphal text, Acts of Paul and Thecla. And I'm calling it chapter 2, verse 37. I am the handmaiden of the living God, and I have about me, I have on that his son, in whom God is well pleased, for whose sake not one of the beasts hath touched me. For he alone is the goal of salvation, and the substance of life immortal. For unto them that are tossed about he is a refuge, unto the oppressed relief, and unto the despairing shelter. It is my great privilege today to introduce Saint Thecla. Now, Thecla is a Catholic and Eastern Orthodox saint. Her feast day is September 23rd, and there are many churches dedicated to her in Europe and Latin America and Spain and Italy and Germany, Canada, Wales, and Africa. And there are even 3 churches named for her in the United States, one in Clinton, Michigan, one in Pembroke, Massachusetts, and the other in Chicago, Illinois. And so it's amazing that she's not a secret, and yet we don't know much about her. And I think it's because she's a very powerful woman and a great example. And again, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited about her. So now here is a traditional image. And you know, this is the basic way the Eastern Orthodox showed everyone. That very, very thin nose, and then that set of eyes. And of course, she has been Europeanized. But I'm talking about her today because she was a trailblazer. And she inspired so many women that there was actually the movement of Saint Thecla. And I want to read this quote about these women. Thecla was praised among these women as sort of a patron saint of empowered women. In the Acts of Paul and Thecla, Saint Thecla preached to men. She baptized herself, which is a crazy story, and that stuff was normally supposed to be done by men only. So here's some more traditional images of her, and this one that's on the right on my screen, where she has her halo and she's holding the book. That is a more Eastern Orthodox, because she's much more popular there than in the Catholic Church, image of her. And so I want to talk about her and share 3 stories, and then give 3 takeaways from those stories, and then end with the quote by another mighty woman, Maya Angelou. So the first story is when Thecla meets Paul. And so now we're taking it that this is Paul from the New Testament, and he does bring sort of a different message here. So there's a lot of historical fighting. We're just going to leave it at that it's Paul from the canonical Bible. And Paul has come to this town, Iconium, and he is preaching at the house next to where Thecla lives. And she is mesmerized. And for 3 days, as Paul speaks about Christ and the Christ consciousness, she is mesmerized and does not move for 3 days. Well, her mom is like, what in the heck? And she calls her fiance, and he's like, what in the heck? Now, is this a strange phenomenon? It could be, but something very similar happened to another powerful woman preacher who is Amy Semple McPherson, who is the founder of the Foursquare white Pentecostal group, who she's also quite a character, so they don't talk about her very often. But she was actually preaching in Los Angeles at the Coliseum, the old Coliseum, like in the 20s and 30s. And she was preaching, and then like literally stopped mid-sentence, stayed in that position for 3 days. Doctors were examining her, and then when she came back, she started talking like nothing had happened. Well, when she said what happened, she had been caught up, and she was in the heavens and with the Christ consciousness. And I believe this is what was happening with Thecla, that she was so mesmerized by this freeing and powerful image of this loving, kind, gracious man that Paul was preaching. Well, her mom was like, you get married. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. And her dude was like, no, we're getting married. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to be about this ministry. And they're like, we're taking you to court, because this was an arranged marriage and this was from a powerful family. And they took her to court. And because she wouldn't denounce this new religion, she was sentenced to be burned. So they build the fire, build the sticks and everything. They strip her in front of everybody to embarrass her. Get right. And one of the things you have to remember, that even in the United States justice system, when a woman commits a crime, she gets the harshest sentence. This is a historical fact, that when women are sentenced to crimes, for crimes they commit, they get the harshest and the longest version of that sentence that is available, because of course women being independent, even being a criminal, takes a certain amount of chutzpah. And most women's crimes are crimes of passion, defending their children or killing their spouses. And that's a whole different story. But again, they get that harsh crime. And so here she's getting a harsh crime, because they want to make sure that all the women in these towns know you don't have your own opinions and you can't be running your own life. And if these are the things that other people have decided for you, you got to be down with that whether you want to or not. And so they call her to step upon the sticks. They set it on fire. It's a huge blaze. She is not touched by it. And then all of a sudden a rain and hailstorm comes, puts the fire out. She is fine and actually harms other people. And so they're like, enough of that. Get out of the city. So now she's out of the city. She's walking with Paul, because she's asked him, can I get baptized? And he's not wanting to baptize her. And she's on this beautiful woman. And some man sees her and wants to have his way with her, or take her to have his way with her. And she's like, oh, heck no. So she fights him, and she pulls off his crown, and she tears his cloak, and then she mocks him, and he is not having this. So again, he takes her to court. And again, women being independent, being in control of their bodies, saying, no, you're not just going to be doing whatever you feel like with me or to me. And so she's going to be punished. And her punishment is that she's going to be killed by wild beasts. And they want to make sure now, because, word got out about how she was saved by God. So they're like, that was like a fluke. You keep acting like this. You other women who are like shouting, this is unfair. She shouldn't be treated this way. This government is unfair. So now they're really like, oh, we got to put the kibosh on this. She's going to be paraded through the street with this fierce lioness. And of course, the lioness is the real king of the jungle. And this fierce lioness will probably tear her apart right then. Well, the lioness lays down at her feet and licks her feet and is acting like a little kitten. So they're like, what in the heck? They get her set. And of course, because she's a virgin, and in our time, that means a woman who has never had sex. In that time, it really meant a woman who was very powerful and independent, just like the Virgo, the only woman of the astrological, the virgin of the astrology, again, powerful, the high priestess. And so before she goes to this punishment, there are men who want to bring her down, right? And so she asks to stay with this queen who protects her. And so then the next day she goes, she's put with these beasts, and the lioness is like, oh, heck no. So she fights a bear that comes at her and kills the bear. She then fights a male lion and kills the male lion. And in that battle also dies herself. And so the women are yelling in the Colosseum like, look at this. The animals are fighting for her. You guys are wrong and she is right. And you shouldn't be doing this. And in the midst of this, Thecla jumps into this bowl or this thing that has seals in it, which they were saying like, it's dangerous. I'm like, I thought seals were like really cute animals. Anyway, she baptizes herself. And she's thrown out of the town again. And this is another story that I don't address, but she wants to go see Paul, and she's sick of these men trying to, be rapists and stuff. So she actually dresses like a man and goes and finds Paul. And then the last story I want to talk about is her escape in the cave. So again, in her old age, she is a sage and wise woman. She is a healer. She has tapped into her divine feminine gifts, and people come to her for wisdom, come to her for healing. And so again, there's some young men that just want to try to take her down, and they come to this cave where she's at, and the cave door closes. The part where she's at opens. She goes in there. That closes, and the cave's open, and they're not able to get to her. And so I want to talk about just 3 things in her life to close this time up of celebrating this great woman, Saint Thecla, and her black girl magic. So first of all, the first story is that she stands her ground. She wants to be a new person. She wants to walk in this new spirituality, and she doesn't want to be bound and confined by other people's opinions, by the governments, by the way that the world is supposed to be. She wants to operate and walk in a new way. And that's very congruent with 2 Corinthians 5:17. This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone and a new life has begun. And she let go of that narrative. She could have said, like, Paul, this is really good and I'm really digging this Christ person, but I'm a woman, and so I got to have a man to be important. And my family has all these concerns and made these contracts. And so, no, she's like, I am a new creation as I step into this Christ consciousness. In the second story, where this rapist is all about, she says the most powerful words that can come out of a woman's mouth, and words that women don't use very often, but it's the word no. And she holds a boundary. She values herself and her worth, and she's not giving in to outside circumstances. She wants to live her life from the inside out. So they're going to have all these beasts, which represents negativity and hatefulness and fear, and she just faces them down, standing on the word, or being a living example of Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment shall be condemned. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is from me, says the Lord. And then the last story about the cave, that I just, she's like, no, I know that I am safe. And as long as I am doing that, which is connected to my Christ consciousness and living a place where I'm being a beneficial presence and being a healing, I am guided, guarded, protected, and divinely directed. So she walks to the back of the cave, and she's not even looking back to see what happens, for she knows that she is safe. Echoing the words of Proverbs 18:10, the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are safe. So this is a great woman of God letting us know that we can live in our heart connected with the spirituality and living our Christ consciousness, living in a new way. That we can say no to those outside circumstances that would want to demean us and rob us and force us into a place of fear. And that when trouble comes, and it comes in everyone's life, that as we have spend our time doing what we're supposed to do, which is being our love and light and that representative of the Christ in this world, we are safe, guided, guarded, and protected. And she's a great example of someone who chose to live her life for herself, by herself, and inspired by the teachings of Christ. And I end our time together with a quote by another very amazing woman, the one and only Maya Angelou. Each time a woman stands up for herself, without knowing it possibly, without claiming it, she stands up for all women. Thank you, Saint Thecla, for standing up for women, and I'm grateful today to be able to share just a small bit of your story, and may we all be inspired by her. Have a blessed beautiful and magnificent day.